Welcome to today's 5 Good Minutes, considering the season of Advent with Kurt Bjorklund.
Joy. Where does joy come from? Certainly we could say joy comes from having things lined up in a certain way in our life. Often the classical definition is that's happiness that's based on happenings, and joy is based on something bigger. Jesus says this in John chapter 15, verse 11. He says, "These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full." Jesus talks about abiding, John 15, in his love and keeping his commandments so that you may be full of joy. So how do we have joy in our lives? There were some shows that were on at about the same time. One was called Kitchen Nightmares, and the other Restaurant Impossible. And both shows had these celebrity chefs, Gordon Ramsay and Robert Irvine. And they tried to rehabilitate these broken down restaurants. And what would happen is the chef would show up and find the establishment in disarray and think there was no chance of success. They owed a lot of money. Often there were health code violations. There was poor customer service. And what would happen is they would remodel some things, do some things. And what would happen is supposedly one of the shows, most of the shows that appeared on Kitchen Nightmares, closed shortly after they were on the show. And the shows that were on Restaurant Impossible, a higher percentage remained open. So what was the difference? If you ever saw the shows, Irvine, if we wanted to reduce it, was one who came alongside, whereas Ramsay was one who came at the people. And notice what the language of John 15 is. If you abide in me and I abide in you, then he talks about joy. Jesus comes alongside. It's not that he ignores our failures and simply says, you do whatever you want. He points out what's wrong, but when we abide in him, there is a transition that takes place. But what Jesus doesn't do is what Gordon Ramsay used to do, and that is simply lambaste all that's wrong and say all that was irredeemable. But what he does instead is he comes and says, there is something that can be done in your life. And certainly this is true on a grand level because Jesus is the one who pays for us, and the joy that we have is not merely in saying all is forgiven from the past, and therefore my restaurant failures or my life moral failures are forgiven, but my future is in the hands of a loving God, and as I abide in him, there is a joy. You see, God, through Jesus Christ, is the one who came to this earth, rose to life, ascended into heaven, and now lives and is available for intercession. And you and I can have a relationship with this God. And wherever you or I have made a mess of our lives, wherever things have become disjointed and broken because of the choices we have made, we can get back on track because there is a God who says, I didn't just come to point out what's wrong, but I came to walk with you. Now, that does require not simply seeing ourselves as the self-improvement plan to get ourselves back on track, but instead understanding this is a spiritual restoration. But that is where joy is found. I love how Jesus ties abiding, obedience, and joy all together, where he says, I've come that you may have joy and have it fully. Like I want you to experience joy. What would joy look like for you this year? Would it be simply changing some happenings to feel more joyful, or would it be the hope of knowing that God is with you and renovating the broken places in your life and bringing about new hope, new beauty, where maybe you felt the beauty was gone?
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.